Central Valley Talk. This is our Saturday edition where we spend the whole week looking for interesting people to come on our show. And today we found an interesting person whose name I forgot already, James Hutchins. And you're a podcaster.
Yes, sir.
Tell us the name of your podcast.
My podcast is called The Monsters Lair.
Okay, now for those of us who are kind of not totally familiar with podcasts, how do you listen to it?
Well, I have a hosting site, which is Anchor FM.
Mm-hmm.
They are basically like our main hub, and I upload my episodes to there. They broadcast our episodes out to all the streaming services.
Okay, so it's not live then?
It's not live. I do it in segments.
You do it once a week, or how often?
Usually I release the new episodes on Monday at midnight. And they go out to Spotify, Google Podcasts.
Oh, I see. It puts them out to the podcast.
Just about every podcast streaming service that you can find a podcast on, I'll be on.
Now, let's say you're someone like me that is kind of behind the times on technology. I just go to my iPhone, touch my podcast app, and then search for the name of your podcast.
Yes, sir. If you type in The Monsters Lair.
That's it. The Monsters Lair.
The Monsters Lair. That does important in there.
Now, well, how do you get that name, The Monsters Lair?
That actually comes from one of my nicknames. One of my nicknames is the Trailer Park Monster.
Okay.
So the show is my baby. It's my podcast. So The Monsters Lair. It's where I dwell. That's where we dive into the depths.
You dwell in the monsters lair. Very
yes, sir.
Cool. Now, it elicits thoughts of monsters. Is there some monster supernatural component to
Absolutely. That's exactly the main focus of our podcast. We discuss everything paranormal, strange, weird occurrences. We let people come on and tell their personal ghost stories. We're not on there to decide whether it's true or not.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of just put the stories out there for a good story's sake. And we kind of let it linger, and it's up to the listener to make up their mind whether they think it's true or not.
For a good story's sake, I like that.
Yes,
so, and
sir.
Have you found some interesting things around the valley?
I have actually. Actually, right up the street from the studio here is a location known as the Sample Sanitarium.
Mm-hmm.
We did a little bit of a deep dive on all the locations from the Central Valley that have weird stories.
Is that that vacant place up there on Fulton
right off of Fulton and Mildreda?
Uh-huh.
There's that big white building there.
If you ever get off the freeway there at Van Ness Fulton exit, you'll see the big building there.
Yep, if you see it, if you're going eastbound on 180, you see it looming there in the distance, and it's kind of intimidating just by looks.
What kind of ghost stories have come out of there?
So the story I told on the podcast that was focused on it, I guess it used to be tuberculosis sanitarium. Yeah. Way back in the day, and I guess they weren't treating their patients real well there. They ended up being shut down. When they went to go do an investigation on the place, they found, bodies in closets, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, it's said to be haunted because of the activity that was going on there. And there's been a couple of, rumors and ghost stories that come out of it from ghost hunters that have went to go investigate that had some strange occurrences there as well. Wow. So it definitely has a reputation. It definitely has the look of a spooky building, with its boarded up windows and the whole nine. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Maybe it helps explain why it's been empty. I mean, I've lived around for 50 years. I never remember anything being there.
Yeah, it was interesting to stumble across that because
you're from the neighborhood here around us.
Yes,
so
sir.
Do you remember seeing a business ever being there?
No, not to my knowledge. Going back as long as I can remember that building being there, being a kid. It's always looked the way it's looked now.
Yeah. Now, have you ever had a personal encounter with some unexplainable thing?
That's the strange thing. I have not had my own personal encounter, but it seems a lot of people
You're looking for it, right?
Right, yeah. I'm open to it. If it happens, it'd be very interesting, to say the least. It'd definitely give me some good content for the podcast.
There you go.
But, people around me seem to have a lot of stories, so that's kind of where I pull my guests for the podcast for. Start with the, friends and family.
Yeah.
Get their interesting stories out there and let people hear them.
Do you think with ghosts or whatever it is there something to be afraid of? Is there ever heard of a ghost or a haunting hurting somebody?
There's stories out there, whether they're true or not, who really knows? There is the entity known as a poltergeist that's said to, pick up objects and throw them or
that's not cool.
Cause damage or harm. So, if that is real, if that's something that occurs, I guess in that scenario it could put someone in danger.
Sometimes in these older homes like we have here, there's always something falling or bumping or something. But I always think it's because the foundation slipping or something like that, but maybe there is something. Who knows?
Yeah, well, that's one of my favorite things about living here in Fresno in the Valley. It's an old part of California. There's a lot of history here. A lot of the architecture is old from the 30s or even earlier. We have great homes like the Mukes home downtown. We have Kearney Mansion here. So, it's interesting if people believe in ghosts and that type of paranormal entities and those manifestations, those would be the places that most likely would have them.
They would, older places. Now, have you talked to anybody about encounters from outer space or possible encounters?
We are going to be discussing some, ufology, as they call it. I haven't done anything quite yet, just because I'm personally a fan of the ghost story.
You like the
so
ghost?
we got heavy into the ghosts. Right now we're working on a multi-part episode actually dealing with demonic activity and demonic possession. So we're kind of discussing both sides of that coin, from the spiritual side, the scientific side. Could it be mental health disorders that are causing people to act this way, or is it something more? Is it
possessed?
Yeah.
So, because we have a lot of crazy people walking around the Tower District talking to themselves right now. You got to think, what is going on out there? So people don't have to tune in live. They just need to find your podcast.
Yes, sir. They can find our podcast. The majority of my listens, it seems like from the statistics that I get on the dashboard, seem to come from Spotify. So I'm guessing that's probably the easiest platform to find us on.
Okay.
Definitely on Spotify. Check us out.
Is Spotify free?
Spotify is free, yes.
You got to download it to your device?
It's free if you can tolerate listening to the occasional ad.
That's right, I don't mind that at all. So the Monsters Lair, the Monsters Lair. You got to type the whole thing. Now, tell us about your social media before we run out of time.
We're on Instagram, on the Monsters Lair official on Instagram.
The Monsters Lair official.
The Monsters Lair. There, I post updates on kind of what we're doing, I do have a co-host that sadly couldn't make it today. He posts content to there as well. His name is Tommy Cunningham. If we encounter strange things just in our day-to-day lives, we'll post it on there as well. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that we put up there, and we update our fans and listeners as well as to what we're working on our next episodes.
And it's mostly Instagram, or do you have Facebook?
Instagram. I have a Facebook. It's my personal page, so I don't really promote too much of the podcast.
Most what I call the younger people like you, they all are on Instagram now.
Yes,
and they left us on Facebook, knowing that we can't find Instagram and can't find them to catch up with them. It'd be great if you come every month or so and just give us an update.
I would be totally open to that. Absolutely.
We have a minute or so left. Anything else you want our viewers to know?
If you guys have any of your own personal ghost stories and you would like to reach out and contact us, you can find us on Instagram. I'm totally open to a message. You can also find us on our main hub at anchor.fm/The Monsters Lair. You can contact us there as well. That's really what we're looking for at this point. With the podcasting thing, as I mentioned earlier off air, we're establishing an international audience. I don't have a lot of local audience members, so if you guys are in the Central Valley, Fresno, Madera, down south, we're totally open to telling your stories on the show. And if you'd like to come on and be a guest, we're doing everything via phone right now because of this wonderful COVID situation that we're all dealing with. But we're definitely open to interviewing, everyday people to tell their stories. We take the approach of the paranormal doesn't have to be so taboo or so, strange to talk about. We're kind of taking a blue-collar approach to it and bringing the everyday person that's had weird activity or strange stories. So
nice. Well, there you have it. If you know of, maybe you've just heard of a paranormal incident, especially here in the Valley, but it could be anywhere, I guess, there's a place you could talk about it now. The Monsters Lair podcast, or if you just like to hear about stuff like that and you're kind of into it, go listen to them. Go to any podcast app and type in The Monsters Lair, and you'll find them.
Yes, sir.
And you are James Hutchins,
yes, sir.
And your co-host is...
My co-host is Tommy Cunningham.
Tommy Cunningham.
Yeah.
So check him out. He posts them Monday at midnight. So
Monday at midnight, the new episodes go out.
Watch them early morning Tuesday or sometime Tuesday, or not watch, but listen to all day long. And we're going to have James back on our show. For now, this is Mike Briggs, Central Valley Talk. We'll be back right after this.
You've done it now. Your curiosity has betrayed you. You've made it to the end of the woods, and you have stumbled upon the Monster's Lair. I am the monster himself, J.D. Hutchins, and this
is where I dwell. I live here with my bevy of strange, fiendish folks, friends, and other monsters. You're brave enough to dive into the depths with us. There's only one problem. Once you're here, there's no leaving until I let you. So sit back and get comfortable if you can. Listen to my strange tales, my terrifying horror stories, and my weird and wonderful facts, and enjoy. This is The Monster's Lair.